Hi, this is Jason from Effective Dashboards. In this video today, what I'd like to do is cover 5 things that you should always do to improve the user experience of your dashboard before you publish it to the Power BI service. Okay, so let's kick things off. So the first thing is visualization headers. Okay, so when you hover over this visualization, here you can see, so that's going to be a pop-up here, I'll just leave that. We can see here that there's 4 icons appeared, and they just become a little bit of a nuisance, and if there's no place for them to go above, then they'll encroach on the actual visualization itself. So unless you are going to allow users to pin this visualizations to dashboards, unless you want them to be able to copy the image, the filtered option can be quite handy sometimes, but these are things that I would get rid of. And to do that, I will show you how to configure Power BI in the desktop. Okay, so I'm in Power BI desktop here, and what I've done is I've selected this visual, and if we go along and we click on the format options and scroll to the bottom, there's an option here to switch on and off the visual header. Now, it doesn't really make much difference when you're in Power BI desktop, and that's how sometimes you can forget how it looks. But this definitely makes a difference once you publish it to the Power BI service. So you can switch that off. And once that is switched off, when you go back into the Power BI service, you will see that there is no longer this header icons. So here I am back in the Power BI service. This is an example of the same dashboard which I've configured afterwards, and we hover above here and nothing happens. There's a little pop-up, almost like a tooltip here, but it's not as it doesn't impact it to the same degree as the other one does. So that's my first tip, is to get rid of these visual headers, and that'll free up some space and it'll stop these encroaching onto your card visualizations and other visualizations. So tip number two is to hide visual level filters. So whenever you create a visual, by default, any categories, any fields that you use in the actual visualization will be added to this visual level filter. Now, that can be quite confusing. And the reason for that is if you click on here, so I've got this visual selected, and if I select department, say I'd select that as being maintenance, because it's at this visual level, it's only selected maintenance here. It hasn't updated any of these other visualizations around about here to reflect the fact that it's just maintenance that's displayed. Now, if you are using this dashboard, it might be quite confusing, and it's certainly something that isn't really expected from a user interface point of view normally. Some users might expect that, and in some situations it might be useful to do that, but in general, I would suggest that you hide these, and I'll show you what I would do instead. So let's get rid of that, and let's go back to Power BI Desktop. So I'm back in Power BI Desktop, and I've selected this visualization here. Let's make this a little bit smaller so we can see these. And we can see that we have got, there's actually 3 different types of visuals. There's visual levels, filters that you set at the visualization level, and these are for individual visuals. There's filters that are set for the whole page, and then there's filters that are set for all pages on the report. So all of these pages would be impacted by these filters here. So what I would suggest is, rather than put these filters here for department and discipline at a visual level, that you put them at a page level, or it may even make sense to put them at an all pages level, in fact. So I think you can drag and drop these, can you? No, you can't drag and drop these. Let's go back into fields, and we will just look for department, and I'm going to pull it into here, and we're going to minimize that, and then let's look for discipline and just pull these into here. So these you can't get rid of, but you can hide them. So you can press on this little icon here, and that's going to hide these. And then the backlog hours is a measure, and we're going to hide that as well. So these will no longer show up. These will be here. Another sort of sub tip to this one here is to make sure that these are minimized. If you want it to be, I would suggest they're minimized. And once we publish this, I will show you what it looks like. Okay, so we're back in the Power BI service, and what we can see now is that I select this filter here, or select this this visualization here. And the only filters that are shown in the side panel here are filters on this page. So it doesn't matter which one of these I select. If I select this one here, or one of these ones here, I've switched all of these options to filter by the visualizations. I've switched all of these off. So the only filters we're seeing here is filter by page. And that means if I go and select a department, say maintenance, then everything on the page that should be impacted by maintenance changes to show only the maintenance information. Okay, so tip 2 is to make sure that you manage these filters and avoid visual level filters if at all possible. Okay, the next tip is to switch off tooltips that you don't use. So we can see here we've got some tooltips here. Now these tooltips are not providing any additional information. They're only getting in the way, getting in the road of just looking at the data. So we can clearly see that the work order priority and the backlog count are 3 and 20. 3 is the work order priority and 2,233 is the number. We don't need another pop-up box to tell us that that's the case. Now there is an additional message there. Right click to drill through, but most people don't see that anyway. So I would suggest that any tooltips that you've got that are unnecessary, that you switch these off. So we're back in Power BI Desktop. So let's go into Visual, let's hide the fields, and let's select this visualization here. And I'm pretty sure that the tooltips here. So we'll switch the visual level headers off for that as well, where we're there. And here's the tooltips here. So unless you're specifically using a pop-up tooltip that's got some really good additional information, if it's just a standard tooltip, then I would suggest you switch it off, particularly if it just tells the end user what's there. So you can see the difference. This is popping up and getting in the way and obscuring the actual visualization. And this one here, the tooltip is completely switched off. So let's publish this and take a look at it once it's in the Power BI service. Okay, so I'm back in the Power BI service and I've published that report, and now we can see those tooltips are no longer shown up here. Okay, so that is my third tip, is to switch off unwanted tooltips. Okay, on to tip number 4 now, and tip number 4 is to make sure the filters are at the right status for your visualizations. So the filters have got essentially 3 statuses. The first one is open, so the filter is displayed. The second one is closed, which means the filter is closed, but it will be available to open for somebody to use and then select a filter. And then the third one is hidden. So these filters are completely hidden and you won't see them at all. So in this example here, I want the filters to be shown only when somebody wants to actually filter the by department or discipline. Or if we select the work order details, we want them to be able to filter by a number of different options here, quite a few different options here. But again, we want them to be hidden and then opened up. Now you can only set the filters either on or hidden. The filters here are for the whole report. So you can either switch them to be hidden or displayed, or you can have them open or closed, but it will impact those on the whole report. So for example, if I close it here and go back to the home page, we'll see it's closed here. Now if I open it here and go back to this work order details, we can see it's open here. So it's a report level setting, but remember to decide whether you want these to be displayed or hidden, and it'll depend on the real estate that you want to show initially. And it will also depend on the competence of your users and the familiarity with Power BI. So if we go back to our home page, and I want these to be hidden initially, but available for somebody to open up and then use as a filter to cut down the data or look at data for a specific department. So I'm going to hide these and then I'm going to publish this. Okay, so we're back in the Power BI service. You can see these have been hidden, but they are available, and you just click on here to open those filter panes. And it takes up quite a lot of space. There's a lot of white space here as well, and I would definitely make sure they are minimized to maximize the real estate. So tip number 4 is make sure you save the Power BI report with the filters in the state that you want them to be in when it's published to the service. Okay, and finally, tip number 5. Yeah, tip number 5 is to hide the drill through screens. So we can see here that we have got the home screen, which is this one here. We've got work order details, and we've got a tooltip for schedule readiness. Now that tooltip is a screen that I've set up for a tooltip on the work order details screen here. It's not been switched on at the moment, but that's a tooltip that we're not using. So what I would suggest is that we switch or hide these, and I'll show you how you do that in Power BI Desktop. Okay, we're back in Power BI Desktop, and we can see here we've got the home page, we've got the work order details page, and we've got the tooltip page here. Now that work order details page is a drill through from here. So that is a drill through. So we really only want to access this page from that button on the front page. And this tooltip schedule readiness is actually on it's here. It's for this tooltip here at the visual level. So again, we only want to view that from this option here. We don't want to see it as an option here to navigate to. So to hide these, simply right click on it and then just click on the hide page. And then if you click on here, right click on here and hide page, and we can see once you've hidden the page, there's a little icon there, a bit like there was with the other, consistent with the other hide icons here for filters and visuals. And that means that you can still see it in Power BI Desktop, but you won't be able to see it when it gets published to the service. So let's publish this and look at the final product. Okay, we're back in the Power BI service, and we can see this navigation panel has actually disappeared on the left hand side here now. So we've actually freed up even more real estate, and that is because there is only one report in here which we're going to be using, so there's no point in having a navigation entry for that. So that is my 5 top tips for just helping improve the usability of your report, and I just want to recap on them really quickly. So first, number 1 is to get rid of these unsightly headers. We can see these here. Number 2 is to get rid of filters that are at a visual level. So if we look here, we click on here, and we can see that there are visual level filters, which can be confusing if you add these on because they only impact that level. And that's the option here. Number 3 is to turn off tooltips. So if I look at one without the tooltips on, we can see these tooltips are not adding much value, and they're just encroaching on the usability of the actual the graph here, or the column chart. So if I turn these off, it's a lot cleaner, it's a lot neater. You still got the ability to click on here and use these as filters, but just makes it a little bit easier to navigate around about with less intrusion in your way. Number 4 is to make sure the filters are either switched on or switched off. So you can see these filters, there's been one left department switched on, it's at a visual level, and it's got this unsightly little selection option here. With us, we've tidied it right up, we've minimized it so that if someone wants to actually go and filter by department, they can filter by opening this up and selecting the department, which is going to impact on the whole page, not just one visualization. And finally, number 5 was to get rid of any navigation options for some of the drill through or tooltip pages that you're using. And that means that you tidy up the side here. You can actually minimize that if you need to anyway. And we don't have the possibility to go and navigate to pages that are available either through a drill through, or we would normally navigate to just using some of the buttons or some links that are on the actual the screen itself. So thanks for listening. If you like this video and you found it useful, then give it a thumbs up. That would be much appreciated and really help me out. If you want to keep up to date with the latest videos that I release one more or less every week, then subscribe and you'll be kept up to date with that. And all that's left for me to say is thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next video.